Hello viewers, Marianne from Revealing Light Tarot. How are we all today? Wherever you are in the world when you're watching, a huge shout out to you. As you will know, Rep Deb Haaland has become the first Native American to lead an agency in the US, that the Interior Department. And as you know, the Interior Department in the US manages huge resources, federal land resources, and all that lies below. Now, as we know, the former guy opened things up for exploration and drilling that he shouldn't have. Now we have a Native American in that very powerful position. She is she's a member of the Laguna Pueblo tribe in New Mexico, and her family has ties to the country that go back 35 generations, according to the Washington Post. She was confirmed 51 votes to 40, and there was quite a deal of opposition to her nomination and applying some similar standards that weren't applied to other nominees. Why is that? Why were the opposition party, the Republicans in the US, so threatened by that appointment? And what is she going to do in her term? Is she going to actually protect federal land? Are we going to see a bit of a turnaround in the US? Now, when I look at Australia's equivalent, we have a member of the First Peoples, First Nations, Ken White, who is the health minister in the current government. However, has there been inroads or gains in relation to Indigenous health? Not that I can see, and in fact he very much stands beside the policy of the current government. So I guess the difference there is that President Biden has already reversed a lot of what the former president has done, the ex-president has done. So let's go back to change, what it actually means. Do we actually get change? Do we see change, or is it more of the same? And what actual difference is this going to make to have a Native American in that position? So let's start with, I'm going to use my Aboriginal Oracle and also my Celtic Tarot. So let's take a look at what is the energy, please, because this is where I go to when I look at change, when I see great strides being made that take us toward a more equal society. I look toward the energy. What is the energy here? Because we have money and greed versus, protecting the environment and land. It's an old issue, isn't it? It's one that doesn't readily go away. But let's see, what is the energy behind this? Behind Rep Haaland's nomination here. Successful nomination, confirmation to Secretary of the Interior. What is the energy that we're going to see? And of course there's an element of justice here, isn't it? Victory. Victory. So of course we know that the history, the land was taken away from First Nations peoples all over the world, and was in a way developed, and some would say plundered. Yes, plundered. And we have victory. And this is sort of like a poetic justice situation here. And again, there's a lot about President Biden is in the latter latter part of his life. And it's when we do a lot of thinking in that age group about healing the past and letting go. It's like our way to bring healing forward and let go before we transition from this earth. Now, I'm not saying Biden's going to transition. I'm saying that he's in this healing latter phase of his life, and he's brought forward a victory here. This is a victory. He's very much concerned. I read somewhere where a commentator said President Biden's not so much concerned about the power of the presidency. He's more concerned about getting those wins for the people. And I really feel intuitively that's correct. That's correct. He's had nothing left to achieve, really. And he's used to power. He didn't need power, really. But he is really bringing forward these wins here. And it's wins around awareness. So there's a lot of yellow here. There's a wreath, and then of course there's this yellow, and it's and the energy's permeating the air. So there's frequencies here that are changing as a result. And when we, sometimes we can't actually physically see change happening, but Biden wants us to see this physical change by putting a Native American in as Secretary of the Interior. Now, we do have wealth here. And of course, I preface this by the mineral wealth that is below, or part of the federal lands that the former president gave permission to plunder. So this is a victory here, and it will cause people to reflect. What is the energy here? Throughout her term, and I don't know what her term is, we'll pull some tarot cards, what she will do in her term, but it will cause people to reflect. And when people reflect in this kind of inner way, this goes out. These lines here, message lines, sending thoughts out into the collective. So there's a reflection aspect here. One more. Connectivity, yeah. Connecting. There's at the higher energy level, this appointment is significant. Because what we see here is freedom. There's a protectiveness to her appointment of the environment. And again, healing. Biden's past, came up in the Senate in an era where it was all about wealth and oil rights and drilling and building the wealth of the country. But there were a lot of victims as a result of that. Now, this isn't just in the US. We look to Australia and we see the same things. And if we go to the UK wasn't so long ago when it was an imperialistic nation going out and conquering, and why? For that wealth there. So there's a freedom here and a moving back into, she will bring, because of this energy that I'm feeling, she will bring this to that appointment. We will be reflecting on her connection, whether it's a ceremony that she attends on Native American lands, whether it's she will bring this First Nations, this Indigenous perspective to her role as the Interior Minister for the Interior. So that's an interesting read there with those cards. Let's take a look at why. Now, Senator Murkowski from Alaska, who 20% of her constituents are Indigenous First Nations in Alaska, and Susan Collins from Maine voted, key Republicans that gave Deb Haaland their vote. But it was fiercely resisted as well. So are we going to see change in relation to the environment? It's respect, being at one. Is this part of moving forward where we don't see that it's okay to ever put someone in power who's going to plunder and allow that wealth to be distributed? Federal lands are owned by the people, and of course this is a victory. Let's see what she can do. Let's see what the new Secretary of the Interior, Deb Haaland, she's going to make progress, and what is that progress in her portfolio? Show me this. Yeah, I'm getting that freedom image again. What is this? Is she the new Secretary of the Interior in the US, is she going to make progress? Okay, let's see. So we've got Six of Cups. So this is a returning to the higher self, to the past. This is emotions as well. So how do we get that unity, or get that reuniting, or that connectivity? We get it through the emotions. When we have a sense of belonging, a sense of place that comes from the heart, it's a feeling that, that she will bring forward and bring to that role. So, and we've got the Queen of Wands as the other signifier card. I'm not sure, I should have probably looked at her chart, but so undoing the past, there will be some conflicts for her, as you would expect, to go and see, the damage that was done. And she will need a plan to move forward. Yeah, so we've got leadership here. I do feel that the VP as well, Kamala Harris, she will be out there as well. These will be the women in Biden's administration are quite strong, are going to be playing quite a role. So a leadership role. Let's have a look. And it's also showing feminine leadership. I'm getting a real draw to the divine feminine here as well. The Ace of Pentacles is in the past here. New starts, laying down the shield. What is the shield? The pentacle. And taking the time to create, not take. The Seven of Pentacles. There's going to be a review. Everything's on the table. A review of what goes on federal land, particularly any sort of contracts, drillings, etc. It's all going to be reviewed. This is mixing something else, making something else, creating something else. So there is the potential for huge change here in this appointment. The Three of Wands in the near future. This card can also be, certain cards are signifiers, and this tells me that Biden's already thought about this. There's already been a lot of work that's already been done on this. They know the direction they want to go, and they're going to take it. This person is pointing the wand. So I think there's going to be the support, again, given that, that he's in this stage where he wants to make a real difference. He's going to support her to lead, and they're going to be reviewing what activity goes on there in terms of drilling and things like that. The Page of Shields, yeah, this is going to be seen as a new start, leadership that brings forward a new start. And the Six of Wands, there's going to be victory. There's victory in this. So while we think, things don't ever change, and there's just a lot of tokenism, there's actually victory here. If you get the right time and the right place, you get victory through change. Now we've got Merlin here in the Hopes and Fears, which is the Hermit card. So reflection and review, causing people to reflect is what Biden is hoping to do, to manifest real change. And we have rebirth here. Rebirth as the outcome card, which I think is judgment. So something beginning again, rebirth. Clarified by the Queen of Swords, yeah. Moving forward, this is this feminine energy here. That is a challenge to the Republicans. And we've got endings of old cycles. So she's going to bring forward change. And it's going to be visible enough to cause us to reflect and look at the way we do things. So she's going to be controversial still. Her term will be controversial. But she's got the backing of the president. And they already know where they're going and what they're doing. Rebirth was the outcome card. All right, let's move over to, I'm pleased to see that spread. There's a lot of victory there. Let's move back to Australia. Yesterday we had our March for Justice, where thousands, tens of thousands of women marched around the country against the current government's cultural, regressive culture towards women that they're saying. I have to say I've seen that too. We've had allegations of historical rape. We've also had allegations of a young girl who was allegedly raped in a minister's office. She was one of, I think, 3 other women who came forward, a staffer. We've had members of the current party, women members of the current party, stand down and step away from politics because of this male, some would say chauvinistic, misogynistic type of culture. So women marched in Australia yesterday. Why? Because they are truly triggered. Truly triggered. And I go back to the triggering of, in America, or when the former guy became the president. And you had those massive women's marches. This to me is the beginning of change, and change here in Australia for a more fairer, equal, just society. It's like if we, and there were plenty of men who marched as well with the women, alongside the women. So show me what's going on culturally and, justice-wise in Australia with the March for Justice, the Women's March for Justice. What is the energy that is fueling? It's a triggering. We are having our Me Too moment in Australia. Me Too moment in Australia. It's a triggering. Okay, so show me the energy of these marches, women's marches in Australia. And I am reading with Dr. Victoria Skirbo, and we will look at Australia's federation chart, which is the day and the time that we became a nation, and we'll see what's there that might have an impact on this question. But in the meantime, we have the 10 of Pentacles. Legacies. Isn't it interesting? Look at these 2 women. The legacies. What legacies are we dealing with? The 10 of Cups. Did I say 10 of Cups? Sometimes when I'm channeling, I do slip up, so that it'll be corrected in the pinned comment. So the 10 of Cups, so legacies. What legacies are we leaving? So again, this is like a pivotal moment in Australia, a triggering moment. What do I mean by triggering? Triggering change. And this is the way we view. So men will be there for their daughters. Families will be looking at what sort of a society we want to leave, or legacy that do we want to leave for our daughters. Okay, it's big questions in Australia. And the 6 of Shields in the challenge position, challenging that. There is a belief in Australia that the Australian government has not helped, is not helping, has turned away, because this is in the challenge position, from changing this legacy, making sure this legacy works for women, for the women coming through, for our daughters, Australia's daughters. And the foundation is the Queen of Pentacles. This is the Queen of Pentacles is home. Not so long ago, we had a Prime Minister in Australia that basically said a woman's place is behind the ironing board, basically. But we also had the first woman Prime Minister in Julia Gillard as well. Politicians in Australia underestimate women and the changing demographic, and this goes to the US as well, the difference that women can make to whether a government is elected or not, or re-elected or not. Now we have the Lovers in the past. This is our relationships with others, the Lovers. I know from Australia's chart that we have Black Moon Lilith there, and we'll go to those placements. There's an attitude toward women that needs to change in Australia. The High Priestess, this is the divine feminine rising, the intuition, what women can bring to the table, what women need to bring to the table. It's a one-sided formula that's not working for Australia anymore. It's like we have to move into, I'll bring the laptop down, move into the 21st century where this is concerned. Yeah, absolutely. This is a movement that is not going away. The Queen of Wands, it is just not going away. It will continue. It will get stronger. This is sharing. This has got dragon energy with it. I'm using my Celtic Tarot. This is the energy of change, and it is not so dissimilar to my first reading on your new Interior Cabinet Secretary, Deb Haaland. This is around the power of women, the divine feminine rising. We knew this would be a feature of the of all, those major planets moving into Aquarius. The group isn't balanced if there's not women leadership in it. Now, the Five of Pentacles, loss, being left out literally in the cold. We're not at the table enough in these positions of power. Now, in certain states, I think in New South Wales and Queensland, we both have women premiers. But this is federal, and in our other states, we have male leaders. This is around federal politics. This is the nationhood I'm speaking about here. And we've got manifestation energy. So now I know this is a fairly strong political movement, not just here in Australia, but everywhere. We've got the Five of Cups. Women feel that they have lost. There is a grief here of what has occurred over the last 4, 5, 10 years, and we're looking at this cups here, the Two of Cups, the rainbow is hitting it. There's a divinity here, a divine timing, absolutely divine timing. Now, in the UK, we had massive protests, women protests, marching for safety, for their own safety after the death of the tragic death of a young woman who was taken, and the main suspect who was murdered, the main suspect yet to go to trial, is an off-duty policeman. So these are very serious matters that are being addressed all over the world. The Five of Swords, abuse. We've got an abuse of power in Australia. And certainly your former president, thank goodness he is an ex-president. But this is what we're turning around. I always say America does things and then Australia follows. Great anxiety in Australia over this. That was one of the cards that fell out. Why have we got a movement? Why? Because of this great anxiety, this Me Too movement. And the Eight of Pentacles. There's going to continue to be strong action. There's going to be a lot of work put into this to mobilise the women in Australia to bring forward change. Now, at the base of the pack, we have the Nine of Wands, which is boundaries, It kind of goes with this card, doesn't it? It kind of goes with this card. A young staffer allegedly raped in a minister's office, a female minister's office, and the female minister and her team allegedly tried to cover it up. There needs to be a healing. The Star card. There needs to be a healing. So, these are serious matters in Australia and elsewhere, and they're not going to go away anytime soon. So, if I was a politician and if they don't bring women to the table, like President Biden has, empowering, lifting women up, bringing them through, if they don't do that, they will suffer the consequences at the electoral on the ballot, because this isn't going away. This isn't going away. Okay, I'll leave that there. That's just a look at the Divine Feminine and how we are moving forward with that in the US, encompassing Deb Haaland's confirmation, and also here in Australia with our women's marches. So, thank you for tuning in. I'll be back again for another reading soon. Thank you. It's all about justice, isn't it? Thank you. And balance.